It is Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and do our yearly top 10 list of McFarlane DC Multiverse for 2025. Now, I have been doing these every year since McFarlane obtained the license, which was around 2020. I usually do a top 20. That has been basically what I've been doing every time I do one of these lists, but this year was a little bit different. Now, I did at one point take about 6 months off, so that is pretty crazy. So I wasn't able to keep up with a lot of the releases. Now, I did keep my eye on everything and pick up things that I knew I would really want to add to the collection, but a lot of the figures just slipped away from me. So it is what it is. We're going to do a top 10. Now, I did have more on the list. I just kind of shaved it all down to a top 10, as well as some honorable mentions. Part of this was because I was really busy this year. I did go on a cut where I was walking around weighing about 230 pounds to now I'm right around 200, a little lower, maybe 204, all depending on, what I've eaten during the week. But I do maintain around 200 pounds. But the difference being that now I am, you know, pretty much getting shredded. So that makes me feel a lot better. I'm still strong, and it is definitely for longevity. So that took up a large part of my time, the cutting down, the working out. Switched to doing a lot of pull-ups and dips, to where now I'm even doing weighted, pull-ups and dips. So pretty interesting, but that is, what took up a lot of my time during the last couple months. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the list. I think you'll find it rather interesting. Now, as always, this is my personal list. Everybody's list is going to be different. And although there will be a lot of figures that you see on other lists, this, of course, is going to be my list. So, starting off at number 10, we are going to have Mr. Terrific, the comic version. Now, of course, Mr. Terrific was also released for the movie, but I don't even own that yet. Not too interested in that. This, of course, is Mr. Terrific, the comic version. Now, right away, right off the bat, there are multiple versions of this figure. I do own them all coming from the collector's edition line. Now, even this version of Mr. Terrific without the jacket, because of course he came with that soft goods jacket, I just thought it was too bulky. Was never a big fan of it. He has some custom made hands where I put his terrific spheres in there for him to hold. They're not the original hands that come when he's holding the spheres. So I really like them. It looks a lot better. They even had the yellow version, which I do own. I just haven't opened it up. But I thought it was a pretty good, release in total by McFarlane was the Mr. Terrific. Now, the main reason he is, not higher on the list is because I wasn't a fan of the jacket. So I ended up making my own jacket version. Now, this one is my favorite. It is the more comic accurate costume. And I went ahead and added my own custom jacket, which I'm really happy with. It came out very well. And in the end, this line is what you make of it. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be 100%. So you have to put that effort to make everything what you would like to see. So yeah, pretty cool. Coming in at number 10, Mr. Terrific. Now coming in at number 9, we are going to have Power Girl. Now, this was a big itch that a lot of collectors had. They needed to scratch it, and McFarlane really did come through. Now, there's a reason why she's not higher on the list, and that was one of the things that I did not like about her was her height. She was very tall, really tall. Now, this is my custom version, so I made her a lot shorter than she originally was, even though you can't really tell. But yeah, she's shorter, especially if you take into consideration that her original form, she is very, very tall, pretty much as tall as the Hush Batman. But yeah, really like her. She had a nice body. Everything was there. The face sculpt, the head sculpt was really good. And we even got alternate versions. Now we got the jacketed version here. And I really like this one as well, especially the head sculpt and the costume. But either ways, this was a release that a lot of people were, really anticipating was Power Girl. And although she's not perfect, as I said, she is really good. Happy to add her to the collection. I love that jacket on the platinum version, and the heat vision eyes really go well with that. But like I said, something a lot of collectors wanted, and we got it. Really cool. That is Power Girl coming in at number 9. Now, coming in at number 10, we do have Dr. Fate, the classic version. Now, after about, I would have to say, what, like 5 Dr. Fates, we finally got the classic version. Really cool. There is a platinum of him that I do want to pick up eventually, where it's more dark blue with gold. But really nice figure, really cool. Cloth cape, wired, which is awesome. Got to give it to McFarlane. They did hit it with the helmet. It looks really cool and really classic. Couple of things I didn't like that kept it from being higher on the list, and that is that no alternate hands. Of course, you'll see here I have an alternate hand that I found, in my box of hands, but the original was just a trigger finger or a gripping hand, which is not cool. As well as the other thing was the belt. I was not happy that they didn't give him a sculpted out belt. They just printed it onto the trunks. But besides those little nitpicks, he really looks good with the rest of the classic styled superheroes. Get a lineup going, and you'll have a really awesome looking, classic looking Justice League or Justice Society of America. So coming in at number 8, that is Dr. Fate. Now coming in at number 7, we have the classic looking Superman. Now, the reason this guy isn't higher on the list, although a lot of people were, in love with this figure, there was so many Supermen released this year. You got the one from the Godzilla 2 pack. You got a couple of ones that are, barely released towards the end of the year. And it was just hard to pick a Superman. But this really gave us that classic Superman look. Now, I had, foretold of this way before when we originally got this book. I said that McFarlane was going to start, pumping out the Supermans, eventually getting to the classic style. Now, this Superman is nearly perfect, has everything you want, yellow S on the back of the cape, awesome head sculpt, great stature. Like I said, great release, awesome by McFarlane. He's really expensive now on the secondary market. But the reason he's not higher on the list is because, another Superman to add to the collection. But yeah, that's number 7, classic looking Superman. Now coming in at number 6, another classic looking figure, and that is, I think it's No Man's Land Batman. Now I just came across him. I remember like at a GameStop, and I was like, I knew it. Eventually, McFarlane was going to release a more classic looking Batman. Now, needless to say, there's tons of Batman. I think you have the year one, multiple alternate versions of Batman. But for my money, this is a more classic looking. I think one of the negatives I have was they didn't give him a wired cloth cape. Although it is weird, you can kind of manipulate the cape a little bit. I think the material that it's made out of gives you a little bit of leeway where you can fold it one way and it'll stay there a little bit. But classic cut cape with the scallops, looks cool, cool colors, classic colors, and he looks great next to that classic Superman. So that's going to be our number 6. Batman. I think it's from No Man's Land, something like that. But for me, it's just a classic looking Dark Knight. Now, coming in right at the midway at number 5, we have Mr. Bones. Now, I'm in love with this figure. It's a really out there character, really cool. One of the things that kept it, lower on the list was that although I'm partial here to the skull, the awesome skull, so I do have a little bit of bias. I had to modify this guy to make him what I wanted. Of course, he had like that hood that he came with that was completely wrong. I had to, make my own the collar here, my own cape collar, and then keep the wired cape so that I could still stylize him. But besides that, this is a very hard figure to put down. Once you pick him up, he's so much fun. I mean, I can't say enough about this figure. The cool skull. I added him a golden gun there, and that just makes him, so cool to pose around and put in action poses and do figure photography. So that is our number 5, Mr. Bones. Now, coming in at number 4, we're going to have Deadshot. Now, this was from the collector's edition line. And I have to say, this is one of the best releases from McFarlane. The figure's not perfect. I mean, it's pretty close. But what did me in was the accessories. Tons of alternate parts for his gauntlets, tons of hands. I mean, this guy came with the works, and he looks pretty good as a Deadshot from the classic comics. So I'm really happy with this one. There is a platinum version that I do own, but I haven't opened yet because what I kind of want to do is I want to repaint this guy to match up a little bit more with the comics, adding some silver and some different colors. But either way, this is a great release from McFarlane. Deadshot was very, highly anticipated. And I mean, they kind of pulled through for us for once, giving us a really cool release. So that's our number 4, Deadshot. Now, coming in at number 3, we're into the top final 3. It's going to be one of my favorites, Icon. Now, everybody knew this when this figure was released, that people were going to be like, who is that? And if you know, you know from Milestone Comics, you have Icon, a great character. Not ever fully developed as much as I would like, but I always had a soft spot for him and Rocket and even Static Shock, which we will be getting here in the near future. Now, there is an alternate version of him, a platinum version, but that one's going for a pretty penny on the secondary market. Even this guy, I'm lucky I got 2. I have one in the box and I have this one. And I really prefer this costume and the head sculpt, the eyes really do it for me. Now, I would have preferred the old classic costume of Icon, but we will probably never get that. So that is why I bought 2 of these so that eventually, if I have to, I am going to make my own custom Icon where he has more of that older costume with the golden ring and all the added details to his costume. This is a comic accurate costume. It does come from the comics. It's just that it's not the one I prefer. And as I said, right now this guy is really going up high on the secondary market, but I'm glad to have him. I will eventually pick up that platinum one, even though I'm not a big fan of the head sculpt, but I'm going to really dig in and try and pick that one up. But that is our number 3, bringing it in, Icon from Milestone Comics. Awesome, awesome figure that people waited for years, like 30, 20, 30 years. And we finally got a 7-inch version of Icon. So that is awesome. Now coming in, the runner-up, number 2, I have seen this guy on a lot of people's list, even as a number 1 on a lot of people's list, and that is Cyborg Superman. Now, really like this figure. It looks cool. I know a lot of people thought McFarlane wouldn't pull it off, but he did, adding a ton of cool sculpt work and details. I mean, this guy is awesome. The colors, everything is cool. The only thing I did not like is they didn't use this buck, which is a taller buck. So you could kind of see he's a little bit shorter. than that classic Superman body. But I mean, besides that, you could do some mods to make him a little bit taller. So I'm not gonna kill it for that. The whole thing was to get a cyborg Superman before the line finished, and we finally have it now. I also have there's an alternate version. I think the Lantern red version of Cyborg Superman. So I have that one as well. Both pretty cool. Both have wired capes. Awesome to pose. The detail in the sculpt work is sick. It is there. Don't really know any mods or any repaints I could do, but I'll look into it. But these came out great. Very amazing release from McFarlane. And coming in at number 2 on the list, that is Cyborg. Superman. Now, before we get into our final number 1 for the year, for me, anyways, let's do some honorable mentions. Now, first up, I want to shout out the Green Lantern. So, we finally did pick up a Guy Gardner this year. I really like this figure. A lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was, sick. I mean, the faceplate technology, I mean, the alternate platinum version, everything was cool. I did a cool review of him if you want to go look at it, where I painted the eyes of the alternate face plates, which gave him a more horror dimension, or creepier look. I really like this alternate version of the Lantern when he had, I think, Guy Gardner had the yellow ring, but I retouched up his hair to give him a little bit more of a ginger look. And man, one of my favorite figures. Love to pose him, have a lot of fun with him. So he is an honorable mention, and that is Guy Gardner from the Green Lanterns. Now, my second honorable mention is the Disco Nightwing. Now, the reason he's an honorable mention, I mean, he's not a great release. They did not do a lot of the sculpt detail. They did do the popped up collar, and they did all the paint that they had to. But this is a great release. I never thought we would see this in the 7-inch scale. I did do some touch up on the teeth because for some reason, whenever McFarlane makes a grinning character, he always makes the teeth look very horrific. So I learned a trick a while back, and that is to add some like flesh tones around the outer part of the teeth, and it kind of shrinks them down a little bit to where they're not so prominent, and they fade a little bit into the background. But another cool thing about this figure was that he matched up great with the Nightfall Nightwing that we received earlier in the year, and you could switch out the hands, which really makes it interchangeable and usable. Right now, this Nightwing has his hands, and he has the hands of this one where he's holding that Nightwing disc. So, I mean, it worked out great, and we have 2 alternate versions of a classic Nightwing. So, it's an honorable mention, something that I really liked, and that is the Disco Nightwing. Pretty cool, pretty groovy. And my final honorable mention, I mean, there's a lot of Batmans released, and it's real hard for a Batman, to excite me. But man, this, what is it, Troika's Batman? Now, I did learn that it's a graphic novel made to tie up the end of Nightfall, where Bruce Wayne comes back. He's a full-time Batman. Jean-Paul Vallée is, gone, and Batman ends up fighting a lot of KGB agents and stuff like that. So, I mean, this figure surprised me, and the biggest part of this is that if you put these creepy Batman Beyond hands on him, I mean, man, it's a it's really cool to put him in some creepy poses. He's one of the figures that I say, you pick him up and you move him around, and you just cannot put him down. He's so fun to pose and to put into different, situations and display. He has the wired cloth cape, which is very fun. And I mean, really, really great release by McFarlane. I love the long ears. They give him also that, spooky vibe. We used them a lot during Halloween, which was cool. And now that I'm talking about him, I do want to bring up something. And that is that in that storyline, they talk about the KGB agents from Russia and all that. And I never thought about it before. But one figure we are missing is definitely going to be the KG Beast. I mean, Mattel made one towards the end of their run that was, not really that great. But I would like to get either a classic original KG Beast from the 80s, and even a buffed up new one would be cool. But we just really need a KG Beast before the line ends. So hopefully people start putting that one out there. Really underrated figure. Him and Batman went toe to toe in the 80s, all the way down into the underground, into the tunnels, the sewers under Gotham. So, really cool if you want to look up that story, but we definitely need a KG Beast before the light. And now, finally, the number one figure of the top 10 list for 2025, that is going to be Deathstroke, the Terminator, classic Deathstroke version. Now, I really love this figure. There's a bunch of things to say about him. First off, scales really well. He's a tall figure, comes with a ton of guns and armament. That's something that was hurting McFarlane for a lot of his run, that Warner Brothers wouldn't allow him to put weapons, firearms with his figures. And I mean, now that it's going to end, he finally can. But I mean, at least we get a real traditional Deathstroke that represents what he looked like in the 80s, the Terminator version of Deathstroke. Really, really cool. And I have to say, we waited a long time. One of the original Deathstrokes was the Arkham Origins one, I think, or something like that. That came out like in the first year, and then we had various other ones uh, that just weren't this version of Deathstroke that everybody wanted. So really happy to have him. He looks awesome with all of his weapons, with the working holster. I mean, if you if this figure is hard to get right now, but if you missed out, I would say track him down before he's over a bill, which you never want to pay more than a bill for a figure, but he's getting close. So pretty cool. Anyways, guys, that is my top 10 for 2025. Hope you guys enjoy. We do have one more year because, as McFarlane had foretold, he has the release license for all of 2026. So we got more figures to go. And next year there will be a final top 20, fingers crossed, of McFarlane's final run of the DC Multiverse line. So, anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.